So this is a review of the PicoScope 4224. It's a USB oscilloscope, 2 channels. This is a slightly older version, so it's if you look at their website now, it's a newer version, the 4000 series, but it's about 80 megasamples per second. You get like 32 meg of RAM, so you can take reasonably big buffers of data, and it's got some very usable software. It also has a LabVIEW API, so I'm going to show you how to install all of that. I'm going to review the software, which is well worth doing, especially if you do a lot of comms. So here is their application, PicoScope 7 TNM. Might be a newer version now, but this is the one I've got. You can see it just looks like an oscilloscope. So here I've just got a triggered pulse, so I'm just messing around with it, trying to get the trigger. So as I increase, you can see the little trigger line there, so it's very responsive. It's quite a pleasant user interface. Anyone who's used oscilloscopes will be quite happy with this as a user interface. And there's my square wave, so we'll be returning to that when we have a look at the API. I've got a very old Philips pulse generator here, and you can see it's quite a good quality one. It's not changing the signal very much. So you've got lots of samples here. You can take, I don't know what the maximum is, but I guess if I worked it out, what 32 meg is, it's quite a lot. So you can see it's quite a useful piece of kit. It's got a good range on the voltage. So yeah, very nice indeed. So this particular piece of software has got a very useful capability. So here I've just taken a VI. I'm just going to send out the serial port IDN. It's 9600 baud, 8 bits, stop bit of 1 bit, 1 stop bit. So I'm just going to send that out. That's just another USB thing, and you can see, oh, I've got it. I've got a signal. So that's quite nice. We can see actually the signal, and if you're dealing with comms, it's always handy to see a signal, but it's got some very good serial decoding. I've used this for CAN bus and ARINC and RS-232, RS-485, and I do know. Wait, it'll wake up in a minute. And when you turn the invert on, there you go. So turn the invert on, just because looking at the waveform of the signal, it didn't look quite right to me. Then you can actually display what's being presented to you. So you can see here's a star I D N question mark line feed, and again that's very, very useful. There's a table down there which is also collecting that data. So really, really good for debugging when you don't know if your wiring's correct. And just to prove that I've not contrived that, I'll change that to a control, and I'll just put in my standard test. Actually, that's my less rude standard test, which is I'll type in hello, and you'll see the data change. Bonk. You can see hello there. So yeah, really cool. We can do lots of good stuff with this, and it's very easy to use. There's a lot of serial decoding. This all comes free with the device as well, and the prices range. I think I haven't looked lately, but I think it's probably like £200-300 to £3,000, depending on specs and channels. So let's have a look at the API. This is going to involve a lot of downloading and me messing around. Mainly because it's not a standard thing to download. So first of all, the PicoScope SDK is the first thing you want, which is their software development kit. So you just download that. And you can see I've already downloaded one because I do preparation. So let's just run him. And watch some progress bars progressing. And that will load a whole set of DLLs. I've not fully explored them. I've only explored them through the LabVIEW API. But however whatever I think about the LabVIEW API that they've provided, the DLLs work very nicely indeed. They're very robust. They pick up everything straight away. There's no messing around. So just download the SDK. I've not sped any of this up, so sorry, you're going to have to bear with me in real time while I waffle on as it starts installing stuff. It gives you installer support as well, so you can build out executables and the like, so that's quite nice. It's not massively huge. I just finished off the install. As far as I can tell, and I could be wrong here, this isn't the LabVIEW stuff though, that's just the DLLs. That's certainly what I observed. So on their GitHub page, gives you all these instructions. I paid a very vague notice of them and then just messed around, but it says the code and ideas for using all of this is also on the GitHub page. So let's have a quick look at the SDK, see what it loads. Program files, Pico technology, SDK, software development kit, and you can see it's just DLLs and documents for talking to the DLLs. And essentially their API, the LabVIEW API, is a wrapper for those DLLs. There's also a reasonable amount of documentation. I think it's all quite good actually. So from that perspective, I like all that. Quite a lot in German. Whereas if you go into the programming manuals, you only get English. Or programmer guides. Which is interesting in its own right. Now I'm assuming the new stuff is all the same because they haven't changed the API or anything like that for the test and measurement. So I think it's all the same, but you get a good set of good selection of function calls. Okay, so go back to the GitHub page. Let's download some LabVIEW examples. This is me reading the documentation. A rare bird. I think I missed the... oh yeah. So it takes you to the individual ones for the device you want, but I found it easier just to download everything. Couldn't be bothered to sort through it. So if you go there, just download the whole thing as a zip and unzip it. Okay, let's just extract him. You'll see me going off to the other screen. This is why there's little gaps here. I'll drag it back in when I remember. There we go. Okay, so that's it extracting. And I've just moved it to my local directory here, which is it's just where I do all my this month in LabVIEW type video stuff. So it's quite portable, so I'll give it a thumbs up for that, so I can put it in my project without any problem. I like that. You could probably move the DLLs that you need as well into the project and link to them, so that's good. And if I open any of those, I think it's broken at this point because it's missing bits. I think it was just telling me I'm missing something, which sent me back to the examples on GitHub to see what was broken. It was saying I was missing the shared stuff. Okay, so there's a shared directory there. That's all I'm thrashing around doing now. Go back to the GitHub page. Click on there, hopefully it'll give us some more examples. Here we go, in their documentation. Again, this is all quite helpful. It says there, GitHub Picotech SDK NI LabVIEW shared. This is a submodule. And it shows loads of stuff there. So that's cool. It's all the Pico error handlers and the like. So if I just download him, and shove him in the shared directory after I've extracted him. So I did try using their advanced triggering, which looked quite interesting because it had lots of sort of ands and bits and bobs, but it didn't seem to like it. So whether that's my device not working or so, I went for the simpler example. My untidy desktop has come to hurt me now, but if I bung it in there, and then we need to take the innards and bung it in. I didn't read this, I just guessed. I guessed right. Is that shared needs to go into the shared directory. Here. I just double checked that there was nothing in there. And then just cut and paste it in. So that should, if you were keeping it active in GitHub, you would have that as a submodule, I guess, coming into that directory. I don't intend to do that, so let's just bang it in there and see what it looks like. And there you go. Now it's found the device, looks nice, and we got our square wave there. Got our pre-trigger numbers. You see we've got 6,000 pre-trigger samples, 50,000 samples post-trigger. And you can see that all works quite nicely. You can see now I'm just moving the amplitude just to prove that it's a live signal. I like the trigger. I like the fact that there's no jitter in that trigger at all. It's just rock solid. So that's quite cool. What isn't as cool is how they've built it. Their API leaves a little bit to be desired. It's kind of typical of a C wrapper DLL type project. So if we have a quick look at that, and you can see there's some nastiness in there. There's, some of these VIs have got too much going in. There's too much data on the block diagram being strung around. That's not telling you anything. They're not using standard icons. It's not a standard API. Also, for some reason, their examples always seem to park data away to TDMS files, which to my mind is a bit complex where it doesn't need to be. So yeah, it needs, I think the API needs a bit of love, and I may actually update it. It'd be kind of an interesting exercise to make it more standard. But it's usable. You can build things with this, and build quite powerful things with it, so that's quite cool. So yeah, all in all, a nice bit of kit, I think. Something you should have in your toolbox, especially if you do comms.